Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Snakebite. It is finals week, which means this is my final week of being the host of the Snakebite. I'm leaving you in good hands, though. Don't worry, Carl will be taking over next semester. We will have some great fall sports news. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Spring sports, not over yet. All that and more on this episode of Snakebite. For the last time of the 2024 season and my career, Nick Merritt, why don't we roll that intro?
And I'll give you 3 guesses of how we're going to start this show, and the last 2 don't count. Women's lacrosse. But unfortunately, this time, it's after a loss. At Barron Field this past Sunday, the Mocs suffered a heartbreaking loss to rival number 5 University of Tampa in the Sunshine State Conference Championship game for the 2nd year in a row. In this one, the Mocs were held to their lowest first quarter point total of the year with just 2 goals, propelling them into the second all even at 2 with the Spartans. Then the Mocs found some life in the second quarter, scoring the most points by either team in a single quarter with 4. UT stayed within striking distance, though, scoring 3 to head into half with the Mocs up 6-5. Things looked pretty similar as the game continued with back-and-forth strong defensive efforts and sneaky offensive possessions as the Mocs began to look like they may be pulling away, going up 9-5 just 7 minutes into the third. That's when Tampa came surging back, playing great defense and executing offensively. The Mocs, however, did the opposite, losing their offensive firepower we've seen all year as they scored the 2nd most goals in the country going into the game, as well as being a top 5 scoring offense. It all disappeared as the third started winding down. Mocs fans were waiting for a true response, but didn't see one as the quarter ended with Florida Southern still up 9-7. But once the fourth started, whatever Florida Southern offense that was seen at the start disappeared. And Tampa took advantage, scoring 3 more, making it a total of 5 unanswered goals going into the final moments of the game, where the Mocs had a huge opportunity. In the final 30 seconds, Tampa turned the ball over in Florida Southern's half. The Mocs sprint down the field looking for an opening, but end up calling a timeout. Out of the timeout, they're trapped from the whistle by the unrelenting Tampa defense looking for a pass and then a shot, but to no avail, turning it over at the buzzer. This was the matchup in the regional last year. We saw the Mocs prevail, but there's a little bit in their road.
Yeah, I mean, they went on to made a run at the national championship after that regional final, but before they can start even thinking about repeating that regional championship, they're going to need to get another W. They're going to need to take care of business in those early rounds, which will take place here in Lakeland starting the 16th. You know, Tampa had the Mocs numbered during Lacrosse SSC Championships, defeating the 19th men's lacrosse team in a matchup very different from the matchup at Barron Field. In Tampa, the Mocs had a strong first quarter, outscoring Tampa 5-2 with 4 unanswered goals to end the first. And they looked to continue to roll once the second quarter began, with the Chister doing what he does, winning the faceoff. Unfortunately for the Mocs, though, that was one of the few highlights of the quarter, where Tampa looked like the number 3 team in the country, scoring 7 to just 1 from the Mocs. After that, it was all Tampa all day as they continued to score goal after unanswered goal, outscoring FSC 12-4 over the second and third quarters. Despite their best efforts, men's lacrosse season came to an end in the SSC semifinals as they fell to the eventual champions, University of Tampa. Nova Mocs, though, had a season to celebrate with 3 first-team all-conference players in Nick Shannon, Caleb Cook, and Jack Frazee. Shannon also won the Defensive Player of the Year award. The SSC second team included Joe Bucksbaum, Bryden Robichaud, and lastly, the third team has the likes of Nolan Ty, Blake Terry, Jacob Chiz, and Michael Simone. A lot of great folks coming back next year.
And softball took on Embry-Riddle this past weekend at home in a series defined by Embry's ability to pitch. In the first and third games, the same pitcher was in the circle for Embry-Riddle, Shelby Morse, and in those 2 games, she continued an extremely strong streak with her 8th and 9th complete games in a row. The 2 games couldn't have been more different, though. The first game of the series, the Mocs racked up 10 hits, but were only able to secure 1 run. The Mocs pitching fared well in the first game of the series with Blessed on the mound, allowing just 4 hits and 1 earned run. The Mocs ended up losing, though, because of 2 huge errors, ultimately falling 3-1. But that was just the first game of the doubleheader on Friday. And in the second game, the Mocs cleaned up their mistakes, and the bats got going a little bit more. They started off down 0-3 going into the bottom of the second, but then the Mocs responded with a huge 4-run second, adding another 4-run inning in the third to pull away. And despite a late-game rally from the Golden Eagles, the Mocs held on for the 9-7 win, with Blesson closing out the game, not allowing any runs in the 7th. The final game of the series was yet another to forget for the Mocs, as they've struggled to hit and pitch all year at the same time, losing 0-5. They returned to action Friday in the final series of the year against number 19 Rollins College here in Lakeland, Florida.
The baseball team's woes also continue as they dropped all 3 games this past weekend against the Embry-Riddle Golden Eagles. The Mocs gave up runs in the first inning of every game and were constantly playing catch-up throughout the series. The first game saw Tanner Rollyson get the start, which was his first of the year. Unfortunately, he's probably looking to forget that one as he went only 4 innings, giving up 5 runs on 8 hits. Wyatt Clark came in relief, pitched the final 4 innings, giving up only 2 runs on 3 hits, but the Mocs struggled to get the bats going in Daytona Beach as they dropped the opener 7-1. Game 2 saw Marcus Herrand on the mound, who looked to bounce back from his last start against Nova. That was not the case, as he gave up 4 runs on 8 hits. The Mocs were hanging in there, as after 6, the score was 4-3, but Embry-Riddle took advantage of the pitching disparity, scoring 5 runs in the 7th en route to a 10-4 win. And finally, the Mocs were looking to salvage something and avoid being swept for the 2nd series in a row as they turned the ball over to Logan Adams in Game 3. But Embry-Riddle once again came out swinging, scoring 10 within the first 3 innings. And unfortunately, that was too much for the Mocs to handle. They dropped the 3rd game 14-3 and lost their 6th straight. They look to bounce back this weekend as they are taking on Rollins on May 3rd and 5th with a single game on Friday, a doubleheader on Sunday. They'll then be back in town the 10th and 11th for the final home series of their season against Florida Tech.
And make sure to tune into that series. We'll have our very own Brian Pereira on the mic for that baseball series, so that'll be super exciting things. Maybe I'll hop on the mic if I get the chance. But let's talk about the track season, and it ended this past week despite provisional times from 10 in the 10K from star Christian Giller this past week. And at the top of the competition were the top performers for the Mocs on the women's side, with Emma Moose Musante and Carolina Titus taking care of business. Moose ran the 8th fastest 5K in program history, crossing the line in 17:37 on the first day of the competition. On the second day of the competition, it was all Carolina. Carolina Titus closed out her college career with the 3rd fastest 800 of the year, running 2:24. Then the men took care of business too. Don't worry, Christian Giller's on the team, and he continued to climb up the record books, placing 5th overall in the whole meet with tough D1 competition while running the 4th fastest time in program history, completing the 5K distance in 14 minutes and 27 seconds. The second day of the competition was a success too, with 5 Mocs finding their way below the 2-minute barrier in the 800.
Number 15 men's tennis fell again to eventual conference championships. Number 8 Barry University 4-0. Barry won their 19th championship, a new conference record. And the Mocs battled in singles play, pushing 4 of the matches to 3 sets. All 3 finished sets were won by Barry. The Mocs will await for South Regional selections, which will be made Sunday, May 5th. That's an interesting one. They had a great run there in the middle of the season. It'll be interesting to see how the committee responds to that.
And the number 9 men's golf team has been selected for the regional tournament, and this is their 28th consecutive regional tournament selection in a row. And they will compete up in Gainesville, Georgia, the 9th through the 11th, and they are ranked 3rd going into the regional and will hope to finish top 5 in order to qualify for the NCAA championships, which will be held the 21st through 25th in Winter Garden. The women, unfortunately, will not be competing in the regional, just missing the cut. And unfortunately for this year, this is the last Snakebite. But there are some things to look forward to next year. The Small College Basketball Hall of Fame Classic will be returning to the George Jenkins Fieldhouse, where the top 3 ranked teams in the country going into the final game of the regular season, they'll be coming here. Number 5 team in the country, your Florida Southern Moccasins, will also be joining those, and a number of historic programs as well. And for all results for the end of this year, make sure to check FSCMocs.com. But before this wraps up, I'd like to say a big thank you to James. Without James, I would not be here. A year and a half ago, he was like, okay, come here and do some camera work. And thankfully, I didn't do too bad of a job because now I'm in front of the camera. But some people who have done a lot of work behind the camera. Brian, come on up. I know you're all the way back there, but head on over here.
Come on, Brian.
Nick Merritt.
Nick Merritt.
They've done a tremendous amount of work for us this year and all of the years they've been here. Brian and Nick do a ton behind the scenes. They help with the script, they help with the production, and they help with interviews and all that stuff. I would not be half of the anchor or person I am today without these guys, and just want to bring them up for the final Snakebite of the year, episode number 30.
The 3 seniors, I just realized. Yeah.
And I may not be a senior, but these guys are. That's this edition of the Snakebite. See you next year.